Welcome everyone to Empower Hour, one of our customer impact stories this afternoon. And I will introduce Richard properly shortly, but with Richard Cave from the Motor Neuron Disease Association. The title of this presentation for Richard, How We Use Neurons for MDM to Give People Living with ALS a Voice. So welcome along. But for the time being, I'm going to hand over to Richard, and thank you, Richard. It's all yours.
Oh, well, thank you, Graham, and thank you for such great organisation over these past weeks in which we've been talking about. And I'm just really thrilled to be talking to you all today. And I actually did mean, what I say, but I'm very aware that this is your time as much as it's my time. And if you have any questions or comments or reflections on any of it, then I welcome that. It would be, I would love a discussion about this stuff. The first thing I want to say, because I am in Ghana, I'm doing work on assistive technology for people with MND ALS here, plus other conditions. And it reminds me of just how far we've come in the UK and how far we need to come in other places around the world. One thing that's not changing are the needs of people with MND ALS, Parkinson's, stroke, cerebral palsy, and other conditions that have communication difficulties. And my mission in life is to enable technology that works for people. So it's kind of a people first technology to support them type of thing. And this is a discussion that we're all having because we're all talking about AI, and I'm talking about AI as well. And my 10 pence worth or 5 cents is that it's going to change everything, but we need people involved to co-design to help make it the right change and make it a change that works for most people and not some people. And the other thing is that, because I'm in Ghana, I'm actually in the middle of Ghana, and so far the signal is really good, and hopefully it will be really good. But I want to apologize up front if suddenly things change, because that's just the nature of where I am. So first up, what I'm going to say first of all is what I meant to say at the end, but it's too important to leave it to the end. I'm going to say it at the front. So for all of you that work at Ivanti, and if you have any connection with Ivanti Neurons or anything like that, I want to say thank you, because what you are doing with this technology has, for so many people living in the UK, and I hope in other places around, who have lost their voice, literally lost their voice because of neurological progressive conditions such as MDMs, you have helped to give it back to them. And that is something that I'll be eternally grateful for. So if you're an engineer, thank you. If you work on any part of this, I'm really grateful. And actually, you will probably never meet many of the people that benefit from Ivanti Neurons, but they are there. So thank you so much for that. So one other thing is that, if any of you have lived experience or know somebody with ALS and MND, anything like that, please keep me honest, and please do add any comments to which you would like to. The first slide, exactly that one. I thought I'd just put this in first. So for our friends in the States, the condition I'm talking about is called amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS. It's also called Lou Gehrig's disease. For the people in the UK, because we like to be different, we call it motor neuron disease, or MND. And depending on where you live in the world, it has different names, but it's the same condition. So if I talk about one or other, we need to talk about the condition before we talk about the technology, because then you'll see where it all fits. So MND is considered a rare disease, but it's a lot less rare than people think. It's around 1 in 300 people, are likely to, unfortunately, be diagnosed with ALS, MND. And what that usually means is that there are people maybe on this call that will know somebody with ALS. And certainly, I've been surprised at how often I have seen it, given that it's called a rare disease. This is unfortunately a condition where there is no cure, and it takes a long time to diagnose because there's no clear way to diagnose it. You diagnose it by exclusion, and it's progressive. So it affects the nerves in the brain and the brainstem that tell your muscles what to do. And so it progressively impairs those. And so people get progressively weaker in muscles, pretty much all the muscles. And that's what happens. And of course, the way we talk is a combination of muscles. So most people lose speech, and almost everybody loses movement. Life expectancy commonly is 2 to 3 years, sometimes a lot longer. Unfortunately, it's quicker. And the other thing is that, thinking skills, cognitive skills, the skills we bring into work, the skills we are known for, our social skills, all the rest of it is usually unaffected. So people literally get locked in. And, one of the roles I have is for people with MND who would like to keep working, banks, to support them to discuss with their employer about ways in which that's going to happen, because it's from a business perspective, it's a crying shame when really skilled people can't work, even though they're still really skilled. So, and there are companies out there who are absolutely excellent at retaining staff who have MND ALS, absolutely top notch, and they will do what they can. And I'm forever grateful. One of those is Bloomberg. They are absolutely brilliant. There are many others, but Bloomberg just sticks out because they just do everything they can. I mentioned that 140,000 people are kind of living or diagnosed with ALS, MND globally. That is severely underreported, unfortunately. There are many places around the world where actually, because it's so hard to diagnose, people get diagnosed with other conditions or not at all. And even here in Ghana, which has a functioning health service, that they do the best they can. Very few cases of ALS are here, and yet people with ALS are here. And here are some faces of people who have ALS, MND, and for our American friends, Steve Gleason, who's just an absolute hero to me, and who has the Gleason Foundation down in New Orleans. An amazing guy, and I think he just got the Arthur Ashe Award. So he is an advocate for us here in the UK. There's Rob Burrow, who was sadly a fantastic rugby league player, kind of one of the finest sportsmen, and died too young, I think 41. And there are people who you won't know. So a lovely lady on the bottom row who is 23, who has ALS, and she's happy to talk about it and share with it. It just goes to show that the average age might be 50 to 70, but that's only the average. So we have to work with people of all ages, all skills, all backgrounds, all cultures, all diversity, because that's what ALS does. And on the top left is a client of mine, Yvonne, who lives in North London, is an Arsenal fan, and loves to talk, mother of 3, and just a fabulous person. And she has ALS and MND. So these are the people that we're talking about, likely to be people that live in our neighborhoods. Next slide. Please stop me at any point if you've got questions. I just want to talk about the wider context from a business perspective, when we think about communication loss and ways to help people, like we have with Ivanti Neurons at the MD Association, we are talking about a lot of people, because if you consider, people living with a disability, so much wider than MND, ALS, Parkinson's, stroke, trauma, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, all sorts of conditions, we are talking about a lot of people. It's at least 250 million people around the globe. And so this is clearly a problem, but it's also an opportunity. And I want to throw that out there because of what you have done, what you have enabled us to do. I think there's a lot more in this space that we could be talking about. And of course, unfortunately, the effects of speech loss or speech change is almost always negative. And people with MND often say, amongst all the awful things that are happening, not being able to talk is amongst the worst of it, because it's so closely linked to identity. And impaired speech, unfortunately, is associated with stigma. Here in Ghana, I've seen it firsthand. People with speech change and speech loss is kind of, people end up leaving their home, or all sorts of bad things, and just like, it's just really terrible. And people with changing speech, who very slurred speech, as happens with motor neuron disease and Parkinson's and others, often the first thing people think of is that they're drunk. Not blaming anyone, because it's an education and empowerment thing. So, so what I'm saying here is that, because of the difficulties of communication, these already vulnerable groups are further marginalized where they are. And we just can't carry on that way. And it feels to me like technology, AI, but stuff that we have already right now that works really well right now, we can start turning things back the other way. There are opportunities here, because that's what technology does. We just need to figure out how to do it. Next slide. Please stop me if you think I'm kind of going off on the wrong tangent. I think you could click it a couple of times, because I've been very clever with that slide. You make it suddenly appear like I was clever with PowerPoint. So over 80% of people living with ALS MND are affected by speech change and loss, and eventually almost all will lose. And it's like I was saying, slurred speech, quiet speech, complete loss of speech. That means it's not just about the talking, it's about being understood. So it's a wider thing than just talking. In the MND world, because in the UK, thank God for the NHS, our National Health Service, almost everybody will eventually get assistive technology to communicate. And when they get very advanced, then the NHS steps in and funds it. Stuff like eye gaze or something highly technical. But the problem is, kind of as communications change and is lost, then there are other impacts here that, that social identity and kind of how we feel about ourselves. And this is why companies like Bloomberg and others are so good, because, if we make a stand and say, actually, this person, if she wants to come into work and still do a good day's work, because she has all those skills which she's learned over the years, then let's make it so. And so, when we talk about speech loss, it's about identity. When we talk about, job losses, it's often about identity. So when people adapt things, it's also about identity to help maintain it. So next slide. So here we have, the thing about assistive technology is it will only work at the right time. And MND ALS wait for nobody. waits for nobody or no device. It's a progressive condition. We don't know how quick at the individual level people progress. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it's very slow. But at each stage of the technology kind of intervention, then for the MND Association, Ivanti Neurons is there to help. So at the first stage, at diagnosis, we get involved where probably things, nothing has changed or very little has changed, but they've been diagnosed. And we, if they want to, we support people whose speech has not changed yet very much to create a synthetic approximation of their voice. It's called voice banking or voice preservation. It's got lots of different terms. And it can be really good. So you make a synthetic version of your natural voice, which can be used in assistive technology later. And we use Ivanti Neurons because we can push the apps and the tools out to people's iPads, or we can provide iPads ourselves, so that they can go and do bank their voice with the technology, and they don't need to worry about anything. Sometimes they need a little more support, in which we can offer over the phone, and we work with local health professionals like speech language pathologists or speech language therapists, as I am. So the thing about Ivanti Neurons and the MDM system is we don't want anybody with MND to worry about technology as far as possible. If there's anybody that needs to worry about technology, about how things work, it should be us. And we use Ivanti Neurons in that way, so that we do the heavy work as much as we can. And they just use what they have, their iPhone, their iPad, whatever they have. It just gets installed on their system, and we support them to use it. And it's just a way for us to take the burden as much as we can and let people with MND use the precious time they have left to do whatever the hell they want and not worry about technology. And then later on, as speech changes and speech gets lost or it becomes getting lost, then we provide additional technology such as Google's Project Relate, which is a speech recognition tool that recognizes speech that is changed. And we can push that out and just help people to get used to that. And when speech is lost or being lost, then we push out using MDM all sorts of apps and tools that use text-to-speech or eye-gaze-to-speech or whatever works for them, so that they can carry on communicating, but using a different way. So what we have to do is very difficult with MND ALS because everything just keeps changing. But we take the burden of the technology and use Ivanti neurons in this way to move things in and out of their devices they use, in a way that's as least hassle to them, so that they can just get on with whatever they want to do and get on and communicate, albeit in a different way. So next slide. So currently, sorry, there's loads of words on this slide, but just to say that, there's a little gap in the NHS service, National Health Service, where if you have lost your voice or losing your voice, but you still have good hand movement, then you do not qualify for kind of urgent assistive technology to be supplied to you. The problem is we need to run at the speed of ALS MND, and so the MND Association step in and provide equipment. But the alternative is to wait months, and we just can't do that. So we have turned into a bit of a technology house not that we ever meant to, but we are. We have more than 300 iPads, which we loan out all the time. All of them are connected to Ivanti neurons. We link up to 150 more than that now of people's own iPhones and iPads, through the MDM. And we have multiple hundred of apps. So as needs change, we can swap in and out apps with no data issue at all, because that's what Ivanti Neurons does. Push stuff, push it, everything's fine. And then what we do is we focus on the people's needs rather than the technology needs. But bear in mind, there are 5,000 people living with MND in the UK at any one time. So, we have work to do. And so the chances are that actually we're going to carry on expanding at the rate knots in which we have. So, I just want to say, we manage the complexity because we think we should. And we can swap out apps because that's what MND does to people. And we want to make sure that they have the very best to help them to be themselves. We can also enable people to try stuff out if needing it. I mean, there are no dress rehearsals for motor neuron disease. People don't know what to expect. And so letting people be informed and trying stuff out ahead of time is a really great thing. And actually, Ivanti Neurons can let us do that. You just push stuff out. And now we can talk about it on their devices in their homes. And, the bottom line, I should have put it in capitals, really. This is all about giving people a voice, giving their voice back. And so actually, it's not really about technology at all. It's about people being themselves, allowing them to carry on living and say whatever the hell they want to say. That's what this is all about. And, I'm not a technician. I'm a speech therapist. I'm interested in technology. I had a background in it many, many years ago. But I realized just how powerful how powerful it is, what you're doing here. And, one of the things that I really think about is that, how many non-profits out there could benefit from Ivanti Neurons in a kind of a system that when I look at the non-profits here in the UK, there are very few that are doing what we have done. And the alternative to doing this is that, we give people money, which is great because they can go and buy the app. But the thing is, because everything's progressive or changing, that app is only going to be useful to them for a limited amount of time. And then on to the next. And so doing it this way, we can optimize the MND Association highly limited funds to be, aimed exactly at where people want. But as important, probably more important than that, we can optimize the technology for where people are. And that is the power of MDM in this way. Next slide. So there are loads and loads of different apps in which people with MND use. I just found these ones, but with the imminent arrival of AI, I know it's already here. We are looking forward to big, great things with AI, and therefore more apps, more access, because AI promises that assistive technology will be faster while retaining authenticity, which is something that we've not had for forever. So when that happens, at least we know that we have a delivery mechanism. Next slide. So I just want to let you know that we are a non-profit, and everything we get, everything we're given is donated. We're not kind of funded by the government or anything like that. And I am on a contract, and because if things change and money gets tight, then that still goes to people with MND, and we downsize. So for the MDM neurons, it's saving us a lot of money, but of course it's costing us money. That's 17,000 a year. I think that was the right number, and it's only going to go up because we have a community here in the UK of 5,000, of which we haven't reached them all yet. So all I'd say is, you know, if you can support us, and when I mean us, we're really talking about people living with MND and with any advice or technical support. And Ivanti have just been amazing, actually, by giving pro bono technical support. Then please do. And if you can support us as a non-profit, because that's what we are, our job is to help people with MND, ALS, and that's it. Then that would be most welcome. And there are lots of people calling in from around the world here. If you could support your local ALS MND non-profit, or in some way, or volunteer for them, then please do that as well. Because what I found is that in this space, a little goes a really long way. And I'm not talking about money. Money goes a long way, but actually contact, meeting people, or volunteering for people living with them in the ALS, or running a marathon, or ice bucket challenge, anything. Because until we have a cure, that's what we have. We have to look after these people, just like you have to look after your loved ones. I look after my loved ones. Look after some of it on the shows. So you know what, Graham? I'm amazed. The Ghana network is fabulous. It hasn't dropped once. Here I am in the middle of the country. So
Yeah,
it's
something.
Yeah, go on.
No, I'm amazed as well. Sometimes if you're out in the middle of not very far, well, a long way from anything, internet can be a bit troublesome.
Yeah. So I just welcome, if there are any comments or observations or anything that anybody would like to say, I'd love to hear it. You'd be surprised that as a speech therapist, I don't really like the sound of my own voice. So I'd much rather hear yours. If you've got any comments, then I would love to hear it. But I was just going to say the other thing that I found out very helpful was that I mentioned that the professional services, the consultants at Ivanti have just been amazingly helpful to us, because we were trying to figure out how Android worked on Ivanti MDM, and they showed us. It's just great. I kind of mentioned I'm a speech therapist, and I knew the power of it. I didn't quite know how to do it, but I kind of did it and put it all together, and kind of an audit of it would be a very fine thing. Because the more technical view on the MDM system would probably laugh at the kind of stuff that we've done to it works. Yeah.
And Richard, how I mean, from my point of view, because there's a lot to talk about AI, and you've mentioned it there. Have you thought about how you might use that? I mean, obviously you've probably thought about it, but what avenues are you looking at?
Well, a few. The first is, kind of AI and large language models. So for people that, if they can't talk, they often type messages or use eye gaze to type messages, and it's all very slow. So what we're looking at, working with partners on at the moment, is ways for, kind of large language models, ChatGPT and others, to, if you type in a word, then for it to suggest appropriate phrases or comments based on what you said in the past, kind of a personalized speech generation. And the kind of hope is that it will be accurate enough to require only a few small changes, if at all, and be able to kind of speed up the rate of communication. It's currently quite a low bar to beat. If I was talking to you today, you typing into a text to speech or using my eyes to type, particularly using my eyes to type, I'd be doing really well if I did 6 to 7 words a minute. Whereas I'm talking to you now slightly nervously at around 150 odd. So, and the gap between 6 to 7 words per minute and 150 is filled with bad things, where people, kind of so nervous about what to do, or try and jump in, or finish people's sentences, or just don't engage because it's just not the way it was, or it's just uncomfortable. And not blaming anyone. That's just the nature of it. So AI, what I really want is for people to drive technology to the kind of capacities that they have, rather than technology being driven by people at the capacities that technology has. So we want to turn things around, make technology actually work in people's lives. The other thing, of course, is there's brain-computer interface, BCI, which is a hot topic. Even Elon Musk is in on this with Neuralink. And so we're doing a lot of work with different groups that want to kind of help people with MD, ALS using brain-computer interface, BCI. And it's pretty promising. It's early days, but we think that AI is going to make a big difference there, turning brain signals from the brain into everyday speech, into conversational speech, which is a huge leap that only AI can help us with.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I asked. So should we open the floor up once more, see if anybody's got any questions? Or Richard, any ways you might have used modern device management, and not obviously for the same thing, but in similar ways? Got a quiet audience today, Richard.
No, everyone's very polite. That's fine.
There's something in the chat there from Sam. Hi, Sam. Any features of MDM? Oh, Sam, you put your mic on. You can ask.
Hi.
Here we go.
I just wondering if there's any features in particular on the MDM suite for neurons that you find particularly useful.
I really like the groups, so that once you set up a group, you can just allocate the user to it, and it just everything automatically updates. It feels the other thing I like about it is that it doesn't seem to be prone to error. So having said that, it'll probably be prone to error, but it feels, we are not technicians, we're not IT specialists, and the person that now runs the MDM system at our office in Northampton is not a technical person, but she's really great at working with people with MD. And that's really the way we want it. We just want it to work for people that are non-technical. And that's pretty much where we've got it. I think there are always ways to improve, I think there's a lot of functionality that we just don't need, but other people do. And I think personally, my view is that I think you could consider developing a suite, an MDM suite for people like us, for a kind of a non-profit suite, which is like a kind of a MDM light, which keeps all the stuff, the important stuff for us to do our role, and not necessarily all the stuff that lots of other people want. I see in the UK, and perhaps differently, But for the charities here, I can't think of many, if at all, that are using MDM, and yet they could all benefit. I bet you anything that they could all benefit. I think this is a massive market, and if we do something, if we do think about here in Africa, where our resources are extremely tight, that to be able to optimize resource apps, allocate apps where they're needed on devices. Perhaps there is potential for really big change. We just need, somebody. I think somebody to really have a look at this, because I feel that we have proved it, how it can work for people living with MND, ALS, where they live and how they communicate. We have proven that we can manage far more people like that with only one person as an administrator because of Ivanti. We've proven it. And so the next question is, I think or it could be taken to the next level. I think that quite apart from anything else, there's tremendous corporate PR from being able to help people with MND, because actually you really are changing people's lives for the better. And how about people with cancer? How about people with trauma? There's all sorts of groups out there. I don't know if I answered your question.
Sam?
Yeah, no, I answered it perfectly. Thank you.
And I suppose just to add to that, if you want to have I'm volunteering. If you want to have a panel or a discussion or a focus group about kind of exploring this area, I'd be more than happy, because we're all busy. I'm busy too, but I'd make time for that. Just to figure it out.
You want me to? Would you like me to share your email address, Richard?
Yeah, great.
Just bear with me one sec while I grab it. Of course,
I'm actually trying. Yeah, go on.
I can't use my right mouse for some reason, so that's Richard's email address in the chat now.
And please do get in touch, even just to say hello.
Well, there's nothing more in the chat, Richard.
Okay.
And I just would like to say thank you ever so much for telling us your story, and so passionately as well. So, oh, hang on, there is something in here from Debbie. And Debbie, would you like to say this, or do you want me to read it out?
It doesn't matter. I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to thank you and also Richard for the Empowered Hour. It was very informative to learn more about ALS. That's what we call it in the United States. But it was very nice to know how the Ivanti MDM was playing its part, and how AI, of course, our future technology, can also play a huge role in ALS, and also providing all the links and stuff. And again, that also makes me want to, go out to my own association and learn more.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.